Welcome to the 14th season of the NitWits, a weekly roundtable discussion on the Penn State Nittany Lions. Our panel includes Neil Riddell of the Altoona Mirror, Mark Brennan of FightOnState.com, 1966 team captain Mike Irwin, and Casey Kantz of WTAJ Sports. The NitWits are brought to you by Irwin Financial, a firm foundation for your financial future. Coldwell Banker, no one will work harder to sell your home. By Doctors Howells and Reed, orthodontics for children and adults. By the bookstore in the Park Hills Plaza, featuring the area's most complete selection of books, DVDs, and magazines. By Fiore True Value on 6th Avenue, Altoona. Just ask rental. By Pacifico's Bakery, genuine Italian bread and rolls for your tailgating needs. By the Altoona Professional Hearing Aid Center, your hearing aid healthcare professional. By Monarch Cleaners, for all your cleaning needs. Your rehab choice, Health South Altoona. Ask for us by name. By J&P Auto, home of the $1,000 push, pull, or tow. By Courtesy Motors of Altoona, where courtesy means a great deal. By the Allegro, where fine cuisine is a way of life. By the easy-to-use Big Book. And by the Altoona Mirror, featuring Penn State Game Day every Friday. You can also see the NitWits on AltoonaMirror.com.
All right, the gang is all here. It's the final edition of the NitWits. Casey Kantz alongside Mike Irwin, Mark Brennan, and Neil Riddell. And guys, this is the final broadcast of the year, and there is so much stuff to tackle. Let's get right into it. For the first time since the mid-'60s, Penn State ushered in a new head football coach. Ironically, back then it was 39-year-old Joe Paterno, a Brown graduate, and then this time around it's a 42-year-old, also a Brown graduate, Mr. Bill O-Brien. And just your initial thoughts, Neil, his introductory press conference and your thoughts on Mr. O'Brien.
Well, you know, and amazingly, we didn't hear O'Brien's name really until about 4 or 5 days before he was introduced, which, you know, I got to give the search committee a lot of credit in the sense of how they protected the integrity of the process, given that everybody was after as much information as possible. He was a under-the-radar name, even though he's the Patriots' offensive coordinator. But you could see the presence that he had and how he impressed the committee in his first press conference. I thought he was extremely impressive.
Yeah, it was funny because on our message boards we ran a poll right after the news of the hire came out, and it was overwhelmingly negative. People grading it as a D and an F. And then we did another poll after his press conference, and all of a sudden people warmed up to him. And I think it's just a classic example. We saw it from some former players. You know what? Let's give the guy a chance to talk and see what he can do. I'm also anxious to see what sort of staff he's able to put together. I thought he hit a grand slam by retaining Larry Johnson, a guy who stands for a lot of the good things at Penn State. So, you know, was this a bit of a reach from some of the names that we were hearing? Sure, but, you know, how difficult of a position is this? This guy's coming in. I think he's taking a little bit of a chance on Penn State, and I think everybody ought to throw their support behind him because, you know, this is your coach now, folks.
We'll talk about former players and his coaching staff and who he'll retain, but, Mike, your thoughts initially on Bill O'Brien?
You know, as you guys know, I was originally for Tom Bradley and supported him, as well as a lot of the Letterman and Penn State alumni, I think, supported Bradley. But I think you have to give this guy the opportunity coming in, and so far, everything I've read about him, I'm very impressed with him. I don't think it was the marquee name everybody was looking for, but, I mean, just listening to him and some of the people he's worked with and coached with, I mean, they say he's an outstanding individual, and he is a Brown graduate. He's coming here with a lot of the same principles of Joe Paterno. At least sounds like right away that he has a lot of the same attitude toward academics and football, and he obviously has great experience in football. He's coached in college, not to keep on going, but he's coached in college and in the pros, so he has a lot to bring. I mean, he's not one-dimensional, so he knows both sides of this thing.
What impressed me the most in the press conference was, you know, how humble he was, but also the fact that before he even had to be asked, he sensed the obvious that this is a fractured community that needs to be healed and rebuilt. And he talked about, he's crafted a letter to the Letterman that he read parts of, and that he's respectfully asking people for their trust. And I thought he just really commanded the situation with a lot of class.
Yeah, the other thing that I really liked was the fact that he paid respect to Joe Paterno.
Yeah.
And listen, no matter what you think about Joe, I'm on record as saying that I thought the Board of Trustees, should he have been fired? That's open for debate. I think ultimately he had to leave the program. But the way it was handled, I thought, was extremely disrespectful. And for this guy to come in and in his first press conference talk about what the uniforms mean to him, talk about what Joe Paterno meant to him as a kid, watching him growing up, that's a very delicate situation. And you could almost see Joyner and Erickson getting a little bit uncomfortable while he was talking about it. But I think it's the right thing to do. Joe, no matter what happened or whatever with Joe Paterno, he has done so much good for Penn State, for Center County, for State College up there, that I think it was a really wise move on O'Brien's part to pay respect.
I also thought it was very classy of Joe Friday night to put out a statement of congratulations, because people were wondering what the response was going to be, and he got in front of that, talked about how proud he was that this guy is also from Brown, and wished him well. I think that was also very impressive.
It's almost like the Penn State crowd was in mourning for the last couple of months. It's almost like they opened the door and let some fresh air in. Because I don't think the focus is going to be strictly on the football program now, not on the Sandusky scandal. I think it's opened up a whole new avenue for everyone.
So we're talking a 2-month search, and for us that were in Dallas, we heard so many names pop up. We heard Mike Munchak was the front runner. Names like Chris Peterson popped up. Was a guy like Bill O-Brien, as they claim, was one of their front runners all along? Do you think?
I think it's a delicate process, sort of like a high school dance. Okay, will she dance with me? Well, you kind of know that she won't.
Did you dance much in high school?
Somehow he got tired.
He's dancing now. I know he's dancing now.
I'm dancing backwards. So anyway,
he got lucky with Diane. I think.
You got lucky with Gail too, but I surrender. But I think that's where they got the feeling that maybe Munchak wasn't going to take the job, and he issued a statement. So
yeah, but the other thing, Casey and guys, Joyner said that this is their first choice, the only guy they offer the job to. But and I don't doubt. I think by the letter of what he's saying, it's accurate. But clearly, from what we understand, they reached out to some more high-profile guys, and for whatever reason, it didn't work out. I know people were disappointed initially in this hire. But I'm of the opinion, again, that, let's give this guy a chance. Yeah. Let's see what he's able to do. There have been, NFL assistants who have come to the college ranks and done a marvelous job. Some of them have flopped. Some of them have done great. This guy, let's give him a chance and see what he's about. Let's see what he can do.
The other thing, if you look at other NFL assistants, did they have the college experience? And this guy has, a lot of college experience at Georgia Tech and at Maryland and some other places. Yeah. He's recruited, and they've gone to bowl games before, so I think he knows the atmosphere better than a Charlie Weiss and some of those people.
Joe was not a head coach before he had the opportunity. Rip wasn't a huge name when he came to Penn State. And you talk about giving people the benefit of the doubt. I think people, to be fair, have really given Joe the benefit of the doubt for quite some time based on what he had already achieved, and to try to stick with it. And I think Bill O-Brien definitely deserves that.
Well, one last thing. For the critics who said this wasn't a member of the Penn State family, Rip Engel wasn't a member of the quote-unquote family. Joe Paterno wasn't a member of the family when he came in. Larry Johnson was not a member of the family when it's to me, being part of the Penn State family is more about the way you represent yourself and conduct yourself once you get there. And again, so let's see Bill O-Brien. From everything we've seen so far, he has the capability of doing that.
It's like the family welcoming somebody else into the home. We opened the door. We opened the door for Larry Johnson, and now we open the door to Bill O-Brien and whatever other staff they bring. Hopefully they'll keep the continuity with some of the people that are on the staff, but that's Bill O'Brien's choice.
Kind of like when you have Neil over to your house, right? He has to conform to the Irwin.
He never got invited out much before he got to know me. Now
he was out dancing.
Now he's dancing by our house.
Guys, due for a break. O'Brien officially introduced. He's certainly going to face many challenges. What are the biggest ones? We'll tell you coming up. Stay with us.
The NitWits are brought to you by Irwin Financial, a firm foundation for your financial future. Coldwell Banker, no one will work harder to sell your home. By Doctors Howells and Reed, orthodontics for children and adults. By the bookstore in the Park Hills Plaza, featuring the area's most complete selection of books, DVDs, and magazines. By Fiore True Value on 6th Avenue, Altoona. Just ask rental.
I'm senior defensive tackle Devin Steele, and you're watching the NitWits.
Boy, what a year for Devin Steele, guys. Welcome back. Bill O'Brien ushered in as the 15th head coach of the Penn State football program on Saturday. He comes into a time where the program is dealing with trying to rebuild its image. He's also looking to win over a fan base, maybe, loyal to the former staff. Guys, challenges that O'Brien faces here early on and throughout his tenure.
I think any references, obviously, to these legal cases that are pending, you know, you don't know. Every time you turn around, there's a different type of headline relative to the Sandusky case. You don't know. I think the off the field will be the biggest challenge because I think, let's face it, Joe did not do a lot of out-of-state college recruiting. I think there's some things that O'Brien will automatically be doing that he'll be able to build on the on-the-field product. I think off the field will be the big challenge.
Yeah, now that the decision's been made, I mean, one of the real keys is going to be what he's able to do recruiting-wise. I think being able to retain a guy like Larry Johnson, one of their better recruiters, is going to go a long way to help retaining a lot of the commitments that they have. And, you know, could that possibly open the door to some guys who would kind of turn their back on Penn State? One of the real tricky things, though, is as he stays with the Patriots through the playoff run, is he going to be able to juggle that? Because that's going to be pretty difficult. So you find Penn State fans are in an interesting situation here as they watch the Patriots, who have a bye this week. Are you rooting for them to lose? Or are you rooting for them to win so O'Brien gets a little bit more publicity and gets his name out there even more because you know during every Patriots game the camera's going to be on him, and that would be actually good for recruiting.
Not to mention a big Steeler fan base around here, and that could potentially be the matchup next week. Mike, challenges?
No, I agree with Mark. I think the biggest challenge is the recruiting. And right now I think he named Larry Johnson as recruiting coordinator temporarily. And like Mark says, being on TV every week isn't going to hurt him. And Larry Johnson said that's our new head coach, depending on how the Patriots do and they follow him through the playoffs. So I think he's going to be able to retain some of the guys they already have. Now, I don't know the relationship Tom Bradley had with some of these guys, but I think Larry Johnson will hold on to his recruits. And like Mark said, there might be some guys that might change their mind and come back because now we know it's in place and they're going to forget about some of the other issues.
That's a good point. Does anybody else stay? I mean, initially right now?
Well, he did say that he has a relationship with Ron Vanderlyn. He knows him. They crossed paths, I guess, at Maryland.
Yeah.
And he said Vanderlyn's a good coach and a classy guy. He said something nice about him. But he probably would be one of the more likely because he's developed good linebackers and he has head coaching experience. So, but I don't know how all that's going to.
You know, if there's any two guys you'd want to hold on to, I think it is Larry Johnson and Vanderlyn. Because Vanderlyn, they have an outstanding group of defensive linemen and linebackers there right now. So the other replacements on the offensive side of the ball, I mean, Galen Hall and Dick Anderson, both in their 70s, but I wouldn't have a problem keeping them on. But obviously this guy has an offensive background, so he would probably be the offensive coordinator and handle things on that side of the ball.
Well, he did say, he clarified that about the play calling. He said he will call the plays for the first year. So he's already scripted this in his mind, but I would guess that he's going to bring his own coordinators.
Got about 30 seconds left, but Neil mentions play calling, and we'll talk more about the bowl game coming up, but boy, we saw some glaring things from an offensive standpoint in that game. We've seen O'Brien develop some good quarterbacks. How important will it be to develop an offense and a quarterback here in Penn State?
Well, I mean, clearly the last few years, their quarterback situation, since Darryl Clark, they've really struggled. You know, part of that was the lack of recruiting over a couple of years. You know, I hate to knock a guy like McGloin because I think he's, you know, performed up to his ability and then some. And Bolden, I'm not sure what happened there, but it's not going to hurt to get a guy in here who obviously has worked. I mean, this guy's worked with Tom Brady. Now, how much coaching does Tom Brady need?
That's a good point.
I don't know, but you would have to imagine that he's going to at least have some things in his bag of tricks that he can use with some of these.
Well, I don't know how much he needs, but he certainly gets some from O'Brien.
Was that funny?
We're going to take another break here, guys. Coming up, what's next for David Joyner and company? We'll discuss that on the other side. Stay close.
The NitWits are brought to you by Pacifico's Bakery, genuine Italian bread and rolls for your tailgating needs. By the Altoona Professional Hearing Aid Center, your hearing aid healthcare professional. By Monarch Cleaners, for all your cleaning needs.
Now back to NitWits. A roundtable look at Nittany Lion football.
And it is the final edition of the Nitwits of the year. The new head coach is in place. What about the administration, guys? David Joyner and company. Neil, initially, what do their futures hold?
Well, two things. We want to thank Dave Joyner for holding off till we got back from the bowl game,
yes.
and also getting the announcement before our last show. So the
perfectly.
Nitwits, we're on the same page.
He had us in mind.
We're all Nitwits.
Yeah.
You know, I don't think it's an easy job, obviously, and a lot of, in this world of social media, et cetera. And I felt bad for the assistant coaches that appear to be having to get their information from the media. And you won't be able to judge the hire, obviously, for at least a couple years. Joyner says he's willing to stay on as long, in the indefinite future. We'll have to see. We'll see if they remove that acting label or not.
He didn't come in to be the athletic director, though. I mean, let's face it, he came in to lead up this coaching search. What skills does he have as an athletic director? I mean, in terms of making sure the natatorium's okay and, all these different things that they really have to worry about, I don't know. I mean, this guy's he's done a lot of things. He's been highly successful at a lot of different things, obviously medically involved with the Olympics. But is this the guy to be your athletic director? I'm just not sure about that yet. He obviously was able to navigate them through this thing, but I'm not sure he's the guy to be your athletic director.
Mike?
I've never agreed with Mark Brennan any more than I have during this show. Usually I don't agree with Brennan,
It's a time of healing, Mike. It's a time of healing.
But again, I mean, this is his first experience of being an athletic director. Now, there's probably a lot of people out there that could help him along the way. I mean, I know my old roommate's the athletic director at Virginia Tech, so he could call Jim Weaver down there and get some information. But like Mark says, scheduling games, handling all the press and whatever else is involved with handling the press and all those issues, I think it's probably good he's an interim athletic director, but maybe hopefully he's done a good job, but we won't be able to evaluate this till later on.
And in fairness to him, he's probably trying to decide some of these things as well.
Yeah.
One thing we didn't hit on real quick is the salary. They're going to pay $2.3 million to O-Brien, $950 base, another $1 million in TV, radio. So
took them 6 releases to let us know what that was going to be.
It's surprising that they released that.
Well, for them, yeah, but I think they're trying to approach
Smart
a new
move.
age of transparency.
Yeah.
You never would have seen that in the past.
Smart move by them.
Quickly touched on it, too. Now the process is done. Bill O'Brien's the head coach. I mean, it was an ongoing process. Was it handled properly with everything?
Well, that's hard to say. I don't think you can confirm, okay, these are the finalists, especially if one of them was Peterson or one of them was Munchak. I just think that's part of a confidentiality of search. As much as the public wants the information, Mike, you can speak to that. The Letterman felt they were excluded, but how many people can you really bring to a meeting?
The press are always rushing to be the first one to get the information. But I think from a confidentiality standpoint, I think Joyner handled it very well. I mean, nobody knew what was going on in this process. I know some people were trying to follow out everybody they were interviewing, but and respect for all the people who did apply, and we'll never know that. But the thing about the salary, I was happy they didn't go out and pay somebody $5 million or whatever, a Nick Saban or an Urban Meyer. I mean, I think this guy's in line. They're probably getting a lot more than he was at his former job. So this $2.4 million is nothing to shun at,
I would like to see Penn State be able to release it or confirm it before.
Yeah, that was the one.
Yeah,
I mean,
the
one
glitch.
disappointing part, but that's what you get into. When you hire somebody from the NFL, the agents get involved, and they're playing their little games, and that's the way it was leaked. So the
we don't know that for sure either, though.
Oh, come on. Who would have leaked it?
All right.
Seriously. But the disappointing thing for the current assistants is that they had to hear all this third, fourth, fifth, whatever hand. And the same thing with the players. Once again, the players that everybody seemed to forget about throughout this entire thing didn't get it directly from anybody.
Well, one other comment. I think all the Lettermen would be in support of Tom Bradley, but I think now it's our obligation to go out and support Bill O'Brien. I mean, all the Lettermen should be supporting him. I mean, there were some spokesmen from the Letterman Club that aren't really authorized spokesmen for the Letterman that came out. LeVar Arrington and Brandon Short and some of these people, I don't know where they got the authority to speak on behalf of all the Lettermen, you know. But
Due for our final break. Let's take it now. Be back to wrap this thing up next.
The Nitwits are brought to you by J&P Auto, home of the $1,000 push, pull, or tow. By Courtesy Motors of Altoona, where courtesy means a great deal. By the Allegro, where fine cuisine is a way of life. By the easy-to-use Big Book. And by the Altoona Mirror, featuring Penn State Game Day every Friday.
Hey, I'm Penn State wide receiver Derek Moore, and you're watching the Nitwits.
And we're back, Mike. He loves talking right when we come back on. Let's wrap this thing up, guys. Penn State wrapped up the season with a 30-14 loss to Ticket City Bowl against Houston. I don't know about you guys. My big thing in that game, after we found out McGloin was not going to start midway through the week, was going to be we knew Case Keenum and that offense were going to put up points. Could Rob Bolden and the Penn State offense maybe keep pace? And we found out in the first quarter, it was 17-0 after the first quarter. That would not be the case.
I don't know if there was a different way to attack that,
Yeah.
or whether it would just been too problematic to switch their whole defensive philosophy around in a couple weeks while a lot of these guys weren't sure if they were going to have jobs, much beyond the game. So, I think they hung in there. They made some defensive adjustments, but that was not an indicator of it was really not a two-touchdown type game.
The other thing, though, the good thing was they didn't fold in that game. I think it was kind of indicative of the end of the season, that the way that the players kept playing hard and the coaches did the right thing. I would like to say at the end of the game, the only thing that was in question is who would be Nitwit of the Week. And, of course, it was Neil, who we will all bow to as Nitwit of the Year, going away in powerful fashion. Yeah.
What a comeback. Remember earlier on in the year? Was...
Thank you. Maybe I'll do the
he's not a good dancer, but we're happy.
I'll do the Irwin dance for his family.
That's right. I was ready to do the dance for you.
Mike, do you want to do your dance? We got 30 seconds left.
No, I would say
in 30 seconds.
The disappointing thing, I don't think Penn State, we did outscore them the last three quarters, 14-13, but I don't think defensively we showed up and played aggressively enough. And I think probably a good way to end it. And then Bolden, laid an egg. I mean, he really played poorly, I thought. And so maybe the new coach and the new look and everything was going to help us in the long run.
And we are out of time. Guys, thanks a lot. This year's been a lot of fun.
Thanks for a great year,
Really
Casey.
appreciate it, guys.
All right,
Mike.
Casey, good to see
Mark,
you.
same
How about
to you.
hanging around?
Come on. Thanks for tuning in all year. See you. Good night.
The Nitwits are brought to you by Irwin Financial, a firm foundation for your financial future. Coldwell Banker, no one will work harder to sell your home. By Doctors Howells and Reed, orthodontics for children and adults. By the Bookstore in the Park Hills Plaza, featuring the area's most complete selection of books, DVDs, and magazines. By Fiore True Value on 6th Avenue, Altoona. Just Ask Rental. By Pacifico's Bakery, genuine Italian bread and rolls for your tailgating needs. By the Altoona Professional Hearing Aid Center, your hearing aid healthcare professional. By Monarch Cleaners, for all your cleaning needs. Your rehab choice, Health South Altoona. Ask for us by name. By J&P Auto, home of the $1,000 push, pull, or tow. By Courtesy Motors of Altoona, where courtesy means a great deal. By the Allegro, where fine cuisine is a way of life. By the easy-to-use Big Book. And by the Altoona Mirror, featuring Penn State Game Day every Friday. You can also see the Nitwits on AltoonaMirror.com. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next week.